Alright, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be looking at parallelograms. This is a good introduction for tomorrow's lesson. And before we talk about that, I want to talk about basically what we call the quadrilateral hierarchy. This is something I want you guys to copy down. And this is actually kind of a really important thing to know. This kind of gives you the flow of how different things are related in terms of different shapes. So, yesterday we learned about all the different polygons and how their angles work. Today we're going to be looking at is specifically the quadrilaterals. So at the top of our little flowchart here, we have all quadrilaterals. And what's special about this is basically a quadrilateral is any four-sided figure. There's no relationship between the sides, the angles, etc. It's just any four-sided figure. But then we have special quadrilaterals, and we can split the quadrilaterals into three special groups. So not all quadrilaterals fit into these three groups, but we can have special ones that go into one of three categories. So they are either trapezoids, and a trapezoid is basically a quadrilateral that has two parallel sides and the other two are not. So that's two pairs of parallel sides. Then we have the kites that have no parallel sides. And then we have parallelograms. And parallelograms have two pairs. So we have one pair of parallel sides, two pair of parallel sides, and then we have no pairs. Okay, so that's a good way to kind of think about how we split up those quadrilaterals and get those three different categories. So the trapezoids have one pair of parallel sides, parallelograms have two pairs of parallel sides, and kites have no pairs. Now, underneath the parallelograms, we have another split. We have general parallelograms, and then we can even split that down further into two more special types of parallelograms. And one of them we've already dealt with. That was on your final. That's rectangles. And a rectangle is basically a parallelogram with four right angles. And instead of saying four right angles, what I'm going to say here, this is kind of the big split. In the rectangle, we have four congruent angles. And then what differentiates the rectangle from this category, called the rhombus, the rhombus, instead of having four congruent angles, has four congruent sides. Now, the reason why this is a flow chart is the concepts that go into this. So basically, whatever property that parallelograms have, rectangles will have that same property. It's kind of like when you're born, you have characteristics of both of your parents. So the rectangle is a child of parallelograms, and therefore it's going to carry all the characteristics of parallelograms into the rectangle. And then the same concept for a rhombus. For those of you guys that are not quite sure what a rhombus is, we would basically call it a diamond. Okay. So some of you guys that maybe play cards a lot, if you look at the diamond that's on a card, that is definitely a rhombus. Okay. And then you notice that we split the rectangle and the rhombus, yet somehow they come back together. Well, when a rectangle mates with a rhombus, we get a square. And if you think about that, that totally makes sense, because a square has four right angles and has four congruent sides. Okay. So this is our quadrilateral hierarchy. This is something I really want you guys to know. And with tomorrow's lesson, what I'm going to start doing is I will give you guys a spreadsheet that allows you to keep track of all these properties, because you need to know all the properties of all the shapes. So this is one of those things that's really kind of important to know. And so this is definitely make sure that you copy down this hierarchy into your notes. All right, this is a really important flow chart to know for geometry and how things work. What I want to do now is we're going to talk about some basic concepts of a parallelogram. So that's kind of what we have here. So again, we call this a parallelogram. And we'll go ahead and type that out for you here. Parallelogram. And in a parallelogram, Things to know are that your opposite sides are parallel, which is why we call that a parallelogram. Okay. But because they're parallel, follow me on this concept. If I extend this side, and I extend this side, I might have to move some things around. You can see that I have two pairs of parallel lines. Now remember back in parallels and transversals unit that there's a special relationship between this angle and that angle. Okay, remember we call that same side. So one of the things I really want you guys to kind of take out of this video is that a parallelogram has two pairs of parallel sides, and that the consecutive interior angles are supplementary. Okay, good. That's really good. That's one of the things I want you guys to remember. So these two right here are supplementary, which means they add up to 180. Okay, and that kind of makes sense a little bit here. I'm actually going to get rid of a lot of stuff and start clearing the way. And then if I take my parallelogram and I rotate it, and then look at this angle and this angle, again, what's true about those two? Well, they're between two parallel lines. I've got my transversal, so therefore, again, these two are also supplementary as well. Okay, so that's pretty much one of the things I want you guys to know. I'm not going to give you a lot more information right now because we're going to be doing a discovery tomorrow in class with the Inspire calculators, so I don't want to give away that information quite yet. I just want you guys to know the basics about parallelograms, two pairs of parallel sides, and the consecutive interior angles are supplementary. Okay, those are the two things I want you to know right now for parallelograms. You need to write that down in your notes. Okay, and that concludes our notes for today. And told you guys it'd be really easy to watch the notes tonight. All right, thank you.